So, Dato Sri, you were commenting about the mobility issue and the importance, if you like, of encouraging more of the Malaysian services sector to actually look abroad, look overseas, and not just focus on the Malaysian market and so on. So, therefore, in this regard, when the ASEAN Economic Community kicks in, let's say in 2015, do you see this as a real opportunity?
I see, of course, there is going to be opportunity for better mobility. But the challenges that we are facing at the moment, it is not moving as fast as we anticipated. I must say that Malaysia is probably the pusher, whereas the other member states are not really responding very well. We have signed the MRA several years back, but some countries have not even participated. So there is going to be an issue. Myanmar just started, so this is the challenge. The other thing that I see as a challenge is that, when we talk about mobility, I think as I mentioned about road transport at the borders, we have problems at the borders, immigration, which is not being arrested in the CCS meetings. Because this is beyond the level of the members of the Coordinating Committee of Services within ASEAN to deal. Because he has to do a lot with the what do you call labor laws and also immigration rules. This is something which is beyond. So until and when member states come to terms about the requirement of free movement, then this ASEAN economic community might be an issue. But apart from that, I think you're right that the market that we have within ASEAN is huge. So I would like to see actually if everybody recognizes the liberalization process and procedures, talking about progressive liberalization, which the government is trying to be very, very liberal and actually have done quite a lot in trying to encourage people to come and base themselves here. We are cooperating with the professional laws and institutions to change our acts to allow people to come and establish here. But there must be an understanding when they establish here, right? It is not purely for the domestic market. It's not purely for domestic projects. We are building MRT, which costs about 50 billion. Everybody clamored here. And they think they're going to get a piece of the action. Fine. But we also want these people to come here, establish themselves here, and then use Malaysia as a base for them to export the services after transferring the knowledge and know-how, cooperating with locals, right? Transfer that technology and export the services to other parts of the world, even back to their home country for that matter. But not just looking at Malaysia as a place for you to pluck in the low-hanging fruits. This is the concept which is what I'm trying to promote. And this is what most emerging economies are very upset about, because there's always an imbalance about liberalization. So you come here, use your technology, share with us, and then from there we export it out. Instead of just talking about making money from here.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Okay, I'd like to move on now to my next question, which I'd like to direct to Mr. Phang here. And that is that in his opening remarks, he was talking about, obviously, the availability of investment and some of the sort of policies and incentives which are directed in that direction and so on. So how do you see then the investment opportunities for the European business community here in Malaysia when compared to its near neighbours within ASEAN? Do you see that?
When we look at Malaysia, to the foreigners, we have to ask the question, what is there, for them to invest in Malaysia? whether it is services or manufacturing. Sometimes when we lose a project, a lot of people just say, oh, Malaysia is not competitive. Or, a company moved from Malaysia to another part, in this region, another ASEAN country. They say that they've lost confidence in Malaysia. I think the first thing is to determine, what is the interest of that company or potential investor. Whether Malaysia is really competitive from its own perspective or angle in undertaking that investment. Now, if an investor comes here and look for just market resources, as well as labor, high labor content types of investment, then I think Malaysia, will face a lot of challenges. Unlike way back when they first started off, we will not be able to compete with many countries. If we are coming from market size, they will go straight, to India, they go to Indonesia or China. If Chinese investment are coming here, or even European investment are coming here, if we look for market, then we have to leverage on ASEAN. 28 million population is not big enough, even for some services industry. They will look at 600 million and a GNI or GDP of 1.7 trillion US dollar at this point in time. So we have to really determine what are our strengths, where industries that are, or services which we have the strength to attract, we have to nurture it. We have to make sure, that it is properly looked after, and also, given the right incentive. If services which are not competitive in Malaysia, and there's no prospect, then we'll say that maybe another country will be better, because resources are always limited. So in as far as EU investment into Malaysia, we're still just like manufacturing. We have to focus on areas now which we have liberalized, which are good for the domestic market, but at the same time taking advantage of AFAS when the full services liberalization come into the picture. Of course, in the AFAS, there is a word which mentioned full liberalization with flexibility. Now that is where the challenge is. I do not know which sector at the end of the day will put under flexibility, where they are not going to conform to the liberalization. If you look at again here, for even trade in goods, accessibility to trade in goods, we have encountered so many problems, so many challenges along the way. Going into liberalization of services will be even more difficult. So my take is that you have now to create an environment in Malaysia. We have started the ball rolling. We have opened up the services sector. We have to work together with the many government ministries and departments in Malaysia with one voice, that is to make our services sector more competitive in Malaysia first, even before we go to the region. The biggest challenge that MIDA has is to deal with other government ministries, where there are just too many talk about liberalization in the services sector. For manufacturing, we are in total control, but for services sector, even with the establishment of the Malaysian Services Development Council to look into this liberalization, which is chaired by our minister, we find it very difficult. So that is our biggest challenge in Malaysia.
Mr. Phang, thank you very much and very well put. Certainly, I think you can hear that there's a great deal of emphasis now on the 27 and now 17 additional sectors. So we're now talking 44 sectors within those industries, and indeed assist other industries that actually you were quite clearly concerned that by having more foreign investment, more liberalisation, encouraging more foreign direct investment, more liberalisation within the market, and therefore making it much more competitive.
Thank you, David. Very good question. I think we have done quite a lot of roadshows In the early days when we talked about WTO, nobody understood. For a start, to understand this schedule of commitments has been presented in the WTO is very, very difficult. And in any case, quite a number of professionals are not aware, of the goings on in the WTO, and that happens worldwide, as a matter of fact. And now the professionals are quite savvy about the events that's going on, and we are actually quite open in terms of being liberal in our services sector. But we only caution the government is that we don't want it to open up at the expense of the domestic professional services providers. So what we say, okay, we will allow foreign to come here, but under local rules. That means they have to establish themselves here, have a presence here, and again, the mode 4 is very important, so that they can be recognized, because professionals, being what they are governed by very strict rules and governance, which most of the time or all the time is in the interest of public and the health and safety, what have you. So if, for example, you're an engineer, an architect, or a doctor, you make a mistake, it is a criminal offense under our local law. So we must apply that law to the foreign counterparts. If that is recognized, because we do the same, when you go over to UK or US, you face the same issue, same problem, not a problem, and there's a rule. So if that is recognized, then the national treatment is across the board. No problem, right? But the problem is that most of these people coming in here, right, on the pretext of foreign direct investment, they want to skirt these rules. So this is what we cannot accept. The government is open and want to achieve the 2020 status by having all these major projects under the ETD. And we are short, quite frankly, we are short of expertise and professionals. And we want them to come here. But please come here, right, and be open about it, and establish yourself here, and recognize the rules. Okay. And so only then we can network, harmoniously. So this is the engineers, the architects, the doctors, they've done quite a lot on their own, in terms of harmonization and reciprocity, recognizing there are conventions that recognizes qualification, education system, and professional qualification, things like that. It's all in there established. If you go to Europe, there is the European Council of Civil Engineers and Mechanical Electrical Engineers. There's the Architectural Council of Europe also. So all these are bodies which we recognized by the EU, recognized by the US, right? That has established what you call the specific rules, guidelines, and convention which have to be recognized. If everybody recognizes that, then the whole world will be seamless, So we will accept that. So you establish yourself here in Malaysia, well, you're very, very welcome, but please, we will treat you like anyone else. There's no love or favor.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Asa, I'd just like to pass over the floor to you for a moment. Looking at the liberalisation aspects and so on, what specifically within the logistics industry do you think should actually be focused in on? Because quite clearly, in terms of creating a very, very competitive logistics industry, as you were saying earlier, by having the foreign investors come in here, that clearly is going to, if you like, create a much more sort of competitive environment and so on, and therefore move everybody up the value chain. We all understand the importance of logistics within certainly the manufacturing industry and indeed the services sector as well. What would be your specific thoughts on liberalisation if you...
And the quality, let's say, but I think here we have this a good balance between the